Hi, Zach Reiser here, and what you just heard is some of the incredibly fun and crazy and wacky things you can get from the Fairfield Circuitry Randy's Revenge ring modulator. I feel like ring modulation is a very misunderstood effect. I feel like a lot of people assume that the only thing you can do with it is weird, wacky, and maybe atonal things. And I hope to show that with this pedal especially, it can be an incredibly musical effect if that's what you want. Of course, it can also do the weird and wacky. So let's get into it. Real quick, here's my bass's dry tone Dingwall ABZ 6-string on the bridge pickup. All right, so we're going to start with the kind of tremolo side of things. So real quick, very fast rundown of the pedal. Frequency knob obviously controls the frequency of the internal oscillator that's getting multiplied with my bass's signal. Low pass filter, incredibly cool, unique, useful feature for a ring modulator. It allows you to kind of smooth out some of those maybe more nasty frequencies if you don't want them. Mix knob, obviously, volume knob, and then you have a high-low switch. This is the range of the oscillator. Low is going to give you more tremolo kind of vibes, and high is going to give you that ring mod sound. And then you have sine and square wave for the internal oscillator. So yet again, you can have kind of a choppy square wave trem, which I'll show, or a smooth sine wave trem, or you can have a more bell-like or more distorted ring modulation tone. So let's start with some tremolo vibes from the sine wave oscillator, just to give a really gorgeous, gorgeous tremolo. I have mixed at about 50% here. As you just heard in that clip, I have the expression pedal controlling the frequency. So my left foot is controlling the frequency knob, which is giving me different tremolo speeds, or if I'm in ring modulation, different frequency of ring modulation, which you heard at the beginning of the video. I want to show something very unique about ring modulation when you're using it as tremolo that makes it very different than just a tremolo. So if you have a tremolo and you're using the mix knob, what's going to happen is the speed of the tremolo is going to remain exactly the same, but the amount of your dry signal is going to be rolled in and out. The odd thing with ring modulation is as you roll in and out your dry signal, you're changing the multiplication process of the two oscillators, the two frequencies. And so you actually change the speed of the tremolo. So you go from a totally even tremolo like this when I'm at 50-50. But now if you notice, if I go to more wet, I get kind of a lumpy tremolo. And then if I go all the way wet, I actually double the speed, which is kind of cool. So yet again, going from kind of a quarter note pulse to this weird lumpy pulse, which I really like, to the double time. Going back to this lumpy pulse setting here for this tremolo, I want to show the low pass filter, because what it does in the tremolo mode is it actually kind of gives you essentially a harmonic tremolo, which is one of my favorite types of tremolos. It's basically a tremolo that is also doing a little bit of filtering. So if I roll this filter back a little bit, you'll hear, so I'll leave it, here's the filter totally open. Roll the filter back though, and I get this really nice subtle filter modulation happening as well with the amplitude modulation. I'm going to put a little bit of delay on from the Strymon Capitan and play with this setting here. All right, going to the square wave side for the tremolo vibes here. Usually, square wave tremolos are not hard enough for me. They don't actually cut the edge sharp enough for my taste. And this thing is like perfectly vertical. It is such a sharp cutoff, it actually almost gives you a little bit of a pop on each side of the tremolo, and it's kind of awesome. So I'm going to speed up the speed a little bit here on the frequency knob, and here's some of that square wave trem. Staying with this square wave tremolo for a second here, I am going to put on my classic kind of synth-based sound, Boss OC2 into the Source Audio Aftershock on a gated fuzz setting. Sounds like this. And this really excels with this choppy square wave trem. Turning the frequency knob up here a little bit just to show off how choppy this square wave trem really is, or square wave ring modulation on the low setting really is. Put a little bit of reverb on, still using that synth bass effect. Here's a little bit of that. So hopefully you have a good idea of kind of the tremolo sounds we can get from this pedal. It's time to get into the weird and wacky, the ring modulation vibe. I'm going to show just real quick how fast you can go, or how high the frequency can get in the low range here. So we can start with pretty nice slow trems, and we can go all the way up into beginning of ring modulation. So now I'm kind of around the pitch of a B flat. And that's as far as you can get with the low range. In the high range, though, we go from this so you have quite the room to play with. Starting off with some more musical effects I would use ring modulation for. So one of my favorite things is to kind of make some percussive sounds, almost like a tabla or hand drum vibes. So I've tuned the ring modulator to an A, and I'm going to play basically a bunch of A's and occasionally some E's, and you'll hear that it sounds pretty consonant as long as I'm playing an A or an E. I have a little bit of distortion running into the ring modulator, by the way, too. So A's sound totally normal, E's sound a little bit funky, and then anything else is going to be way weird. So now I'm going to play around with this setting with a little bit of reverb to get some nice kind of fun percussive vibes. Just want to show another one of these percussive ring modulator sounds. I really dig these. So I have it tuned to a D now instead of an A. A little bit of overdrive still and some reverb on. And now I'm going to get, so without the ring modulator, and now with the Fairfield. Another setting I really like ring modulation for is this subtle overtone sound. So I have a G set on, or I have the Fairfield tuned to a G, and I'm going to play something in G minor. And then I have kind of a little bit of grit from my Source Audio Aftershock. Sounds like this without the Fairfield. And now with this subtle overtone setting. again, really quickly, I just want to show what that sounds like with the square wave side. Same settings, but with square wave. All right, cranking the frequency up a little bit here. We're getting into, it almost sounds like sample rate reduction, but really it's just high ring modulation, high frequency ring modulation. But you get this really nice kind of fizziness on the top of your note. It's not really distortion, but it gives you kind of a lo-fi quality. So here is a little bit of that. I'm running it into quite a bit of delay and reverb as well. And yet again, if you go to that square wave side, you're going to get more of kind of a distorted tone. And in these high frequency ranges, it sounds more like a bit crushing, even more so than when you're on the sine wave. Here's a little bit of that. All right, and to finish things off, we got to get into the actual weird and wonky ring modulation territory. So I'm using this high frequency setting on the square wave, giving you that kind of sample rate reduced vibe, but I'm controlling the frequency with my foot, and I'm running my Boss OC2 Octaver Pure Wet into that. So here's what that sounds like without the Fairfield. Also some reverb and delay. Another fun classic ring modulator setting is these bell tones. So if you put the frequency kind of in the middle and you play high frequencies on your instrument, you actually get these low kind of big chime sounds out of it. And the Fairfield excels at this. It is such a gorgeous pure tone oscillator, and you just get these beautiful bell-like tones that are ethereal and kind of creepy. So let's hear a little bit of that. I'm running it into some delay and reverb as well from the TC Electronics Hall of Fame and the Strymon El Capitan. So that is the Fairfield Circuitry Randy's Revenge ring modulator. Unbelievably musical, pretty ring modulation. You don't have to just go weird and wacky with this pedal. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you got a good idea of what this pedal can do for you. And I will be back soon, very shortly, with more pedals and effects reviews. If you did enjoy, please subscribe below, and thank you so much for watching.